At the beginning of the movie, we see Driss was driving through the streets of Paris with his boss, named Philippe, when they got stuck in heavy traffic. Frustrated, Driss broke the speed limit and started driving very fast. This caught the attention of the police and began chasing them. Driss made a bet with Philippe, saying he could escape from the police. However, under a bridge, the police surrounded their car from both sides. Driss didn't panic at all and confidently told his friends that the police would let him go. As soon as he got out of the car, he started acting in front of the police. He claimed there had been some emergency, and since Philippe had just returned paralyzed, he didn't want to take any risks and needed to rush to the hospital. The police checked inside the car, and Philippe acted along with the story. Believing them, the police let them go and even arranged for another car to escort them to the hospital. However, as soon as the police left him before the hospital staff could arrive, Driss sped away in the car. Excited about winning the bet, Driss celebrated by playing party songs and smoking with Philippe. This incident highlighted the deep bond of friendship between the two. Their deep friendship had started a few months earlier. At that time, Philippe's manager named Magali was interviewing candidates for a new caretaker, but none of them impressed him. That time, Driss showed up. He wasn't there for the job. He just wanted a signature on some papers to show he was rejected, so he could continue claiming unemployment benefits. Driss was a bold and carefree guy who walked in and started talking to Philippe in a straightforward and confident manner. Philippe found his attitude interesting and asked Driss to come to work the next day. When Driss returned home, he became annoyed by the chaos caused by his younger siblings. He then saw his brother getting out of a black car through the window. When his brother returned home, he claimed he had come from school but quickly left again, raising Driss's suspicions. That evening, their mother returned home, and Driss gave her a gift he had stolen earlier. However, his mother got angry and scolded him because he had been missing for 6 months. She kicked Driss out of the house, saying it wasn't a hotel where he could come and go as he pleased. The next morning, Driss arrived at Philippe's house. The housemaid named Yvonne showed him around and explained all the tasks he needed to do. She also showed him his room and bathroom, which left Driss amazed. Later, Philippe gave him a 1-month trial job offer. Driss accepted, but Philippe made a bet that Driss wouldn't last even 2 weeks. Driss set up his belongings in his room and got ready to take on the responsibility of caring for Philippe. In his new job, Driss had to learn everything, from helping Philippe bathe to changing his clothes. He even had to clean Philippe after using the toilet. At first, Driss complained a lot about these tasks, but eventually, he accepted the job. One evening during dinner, Driss met Philippe's daughter named Elisa and her boyfriend. They were looking for a quiet spot to spend time together, but Driss sent them outside, saying the house's atmosphere shouldn't be ruined. Elisa was annoyed, but Driss stood by his decision. Within a few days, Driss learned all his duties. He even read letters to Philippe, though some letters were off limits for him to open. Despite the workload, Driss enjoyed his time and always found moments to joke and have fun. One day, Driss took Philippe for a drive. Instead of putting him in the back in a wheelchair, Driss seated Philippe beside him in a sports car. Initially, Philippe felt uncomfortable, but soon he became excited. During their outing, they found a car parked in front of their house, blocking the way. Driss quickly confronted the owner, pointed out the no parking sign, and made him move the car. Philippe was impressed by Driss's confidence. Later, they went to a museum where Philippe wanted to buy a painting. Driss bluntly said, "Are you crazy? This isn't art, it's just splashes of paint." Philippe appreciated Driss's honesty. One of Philippe's relatives warned him that Driss wasn't a good person and had even been to jail. But Philippe didn't care. He liked Driss because, unlike others, Driss didn't pity him or treat him differently. Instead, Driss treated him like a regular person and kept him entertained. That night, Yvonne told Driss that the letters he wasn't allowed to open were part of Philippe's correspondence with a woman named Eleanor. Philippe and Eleanor had been exchanging letters but had never met in person. One night, when Driss was sleeping, he heard noises through Philippe's baby monitor and realized Philippe was struggling to breathe. Driss couldn't ignore it, so he went to Philippe's room, wiped his face to calm him down, and helped him breathe. But shortly after, Philippe's breathing trouble returned. Without hesitation, Driss placed Philippe in his wheelchair, wrapped him in a blanket, and took him to the riverside for a late-night stroll. It was long time ago Philippe saw Paris at night. Driss told him, "Sometimes, a change in surroundings works better than medicine." Later, when Philippe's pain returned, Driss jokingly suggested he try smoking for relief. Though hesitant at first, Philippe gave it a try and felt much more relaxed. Afterward, they went to a restaurant and enjoyed a fun meal together. Over time, their bond grew deeper and they became more genuine and caring toward each other. Their friendship brought a new spark to both their lives. Driss got to hear Philippe's life story. Philippe shared that he and his wife had loved each other since their school days. However, after their marriage, they suffered the heartbreak of 5 miscarriages. Eventually, they decided to adopt Elisa. Philippe had been a big fan of adventure sports, but one day, while paragliding, he had an accident that left him paralyzed. Tragically, his wife also passed away in the same accident. At that moment, Philippe realized that Driss's 1-month trial period had ended, and his job was now permanent. However, Driss first needed to return the golden egg, a gift from Philippe's late wife. The next day, Driss met his sister Mina and asked her to find the golden egg. During their conversation, Driss learned that the police had been visiting their home. He guessed that his brother is in trouble. When he went to check, Driss discovered that 30 grams of drugs had been seized from his brother. Driss wanted to take his brother-in-law home, but instead, he got back into the black car and left. Feeling frustrated, Driss returned home. Later, Driss sat with Philippe and helped him write a letter to Eleanor. He was surprised to learn that despite exchanging letters for so long, Philippe and Eleanor hadn't seen each other's photos. Driss found Eleanor's phone number in the letters and arranged for Philippe to speak to her directly. After that, they started talking on the phone day and night and sent her a picture they chose together. One day, while Driss was painting, Elisa came in and asked for a cigarette. She started teasing Driss about his painting, which made him angry, and he asked her to leave the room. Meanwhile, Philippe was secretly replacing the photo in the letter with one of himself taken before he was paralyzed. He was worried that if Eleanor saw him in a wheelchair, she might stop talking to him. As Driss spent more time with Philippe, their friendship deepened. Driss took Philippe to play basketball and even on morning walks. Driss completed his first painting and showed it to Magali, who was a little impressed. However, when Driss jokingly asked for a kiss, Magali playfully slapped him. Philippe liked the painting and promised to sell it. When Philippe's birthday arrived, it wasn't a very special occasion. His relatives came, as they did every year, just to check if he was still alive. During the boring party with classical music, Driss noticed that Elisa was asleep in her room. When he asked her about it, she revealed that she had broken up with her boyfriend. Philippe felt sad for her and comforted her. Later, Philippe informed one of his relatives that Driss's painting had sold for 11,000 euros. While eating, Yvonne tells Driss that Magali is in a relationship with someone. One day, Philippe asked Driss to start some classical music. But instead of enjoying it, Driss burst into laughter. He then played his favorite party songs and started dancing, and soon everyone joined in. That night, Driss read a letter to Philippe from Eleanor. In the letter, she mentioned that she would be coming to Paris next week and had also sent her photo. On the day of the date, Driss and Philippe tried on several suits together, and finally, Philippe found one he liked. Yvonne took Philippe to a restaurant to wait for Eleanor. On the other hand, we see Driss confront Elisa's boyfriend and threaten him. After the boyfriend apologizes, Driss lets him go. However, after an hour, she still hadn't arrived. Frustrated, Philippe asked Driss to take him home. Just as they were leaving, Eleanor entered the restaurant, but neither of them saw each other. Later, Driss took Philippe on a private jet ride and returned the money from selling his painting. Philippe was thrilled. The next morning, they went on a mountain trip, and Philippe decided to go paragliding again. This time, he insisted Driss join him. At first, Driss was terrified, but eventually, he enjoyed it too. When they returned home, Driss found his brother named Adama was waiting there. He had bruises on his face but refused to explain what had happened. Driss left him and went to help Philippe sleep. However, Philippe couldn't fall asleep and asked Driss about his family. Driss shared with a laugh that he had been adopted by his uncle and aunt because his aunt couldn't have children. After his uncle passed away, many men came into their lives, and his aunt had several more children, all of whom Driss had to help care for. He talked about the struggles of his life and his responsibilities toward his family. Hearing this, Philippe advised him to leave the job and focus on his family. The next day, as Driss packed his things to leave, he decided to share one last laugh with Magali. However, Magali introduces Driss to a friend, who turns out to be a girl. Driss then realizes what Magali wants. Driss returned to his old life but with a new sense of purpose. He confronted the man in the black car and warned him to stay away from his family. Meanwhile, Philippe became very sad and lonely. One night, he experienced severe pain, but he didn't take any help from others. So, he called Driss again. After that, Driss returned to help him. Then, we saw the place where the movie started. Driss shaved Philippe's beard and took him to a restaurant where his date was waiting. Before leaving, Driss wished Philippe all the best and returned the golden egg to him. Philippe's date was none other than Eleanor. She was delighted to see him and didn't mind his wheelchair at all. This is a true story where Philippe and Eleanor eventually got married. Driss and Philippe remain best friends to this day, and the movie ends with this. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to give the video a like.